everyone, it's Miss Rachel. I'm here to do our journaling activity today. So today you're going to need some glue, pencil, pen, crayons, markers, and some scissors, and of course a notebook for your journaling or a piece of paper. So today we're going to first practice, and I like to have a highlighter just in case your children want to trace the letters, or if they can write their letters on their own, that's great too, but I always just write them in a highlighter so they can practice tracing them and then they can try to write them on their own. So first we will write our name. So if you can write your child's name with a highlighter, they can trace over it. Now, the reason I like to have a lot of different art media is because it's kind of nice to give the children the opportunity to write with lots of different things. They hold different writing utensils differently, it's harder they have to push harder to write with the pen versus writing with the pencil. It's easier, they don't have to push as hard with markers, but they would have to push harder with a crayon. So whatever they like to do, I'm gonna use a crayon. So I'm gonna write my name using a crayon. Work on holding it using your little pincer grasp there and holding it correctly. And they can trace their name with a crayon. That's how I did mine. And we've been working on first names, so if you want to start working on the last name with your children, that would be great. We've been starting to work on that before school was out. So if you want to start doing that, that'd be awesome. So we can work on writing first and last. When we get back to school, we want to start doing our check-in where we're going to have the children trace or write their names when they check in. So we started with our name. Now here down the side, and now what you can also do is have them try to write their name on their own. Now this time I'm going to use a pencil. Work with some different. So this you have to push down. The children would have to push a little harder. Probably not as hard as a crayon, but a little harder so they can write their names. So have them write it right next to their name. Now we have numbers. Now I have to 9 on this side. And of course I have number 10 over here. So you could have the children use a colored marker. They can trace the number first and then try to write the number next to it. So you can go down the line, have the children trace, also work on holding their marker correctly. They can go down and trace, and then they can also right next to it, try to write the number on their own. So it looks something like this, and they can keep going across, have them do it a couple times each so they can start writing some numbers down. And then we'll flip the page because I have number 10 on this side. We can do number 10, and then we'll do number 10. Now, what I did was for the next part of their journaling, I had them do, and here I wrote the word spring. So we're going to trace over the word spring. And then if they want, next to the word spring, they can also try to write it by itself or underneath if you want to give them a little extra room. And then what I had them do was go down and write each letter individually, and they could practice writing each letter individually. So what they did was they did spring, they can write the word spring, and then here they have the practice to write each letter individually. So they can write it like 2 or 3 times, however much they want. I mean, we don't force them at school. We just have them do what they feel comfortable with, so they can go through. And you can also help with letter recognition. Oh, what letter is this? Can we write it a couple times? And talk about the different letters as they're writing it. Things that start with those letters is a great thing to talk about too. And now for the next part of the activity, which involves some cutting, and we did a strip cutting activity yesterday, and this will continue with so that way they can work on how to hold scissors, holding their scissors correctly. Works these muscles in here, which is awesome because they really need to have strong muscles in there to do the scissors and to hold their pencils and write for a long period of time. This side, they hold their paper with, so it's working on using those muscles in this hand as well. But this really, if they're a righty, it'll work on the right side. If they're a lefty, it'll work on the left side, so they can really hold, you know, work those muscles in there, make those strong so they can cut. So what we're gonna do is, what I did was on a piece of paper, you can use construction paper, computer paper, I wrote the word spring. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna cut down each of the rows. You cut down, gonna cut each letter into a row so they can cut right down the row here. Cut up, cut right down, there you go, cutting right down. So we're gonna cut those. And now, if you want, which would be really great, you can turn back to the page that you wrote spring on. So you can turn back to the page that you wrote spring on, or on a different piece of paper, you can write the word spring, have the children look, and then have them pick out the letters and place them in order, you know, on the table. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna use, you can turn your page probably this way, might be easier. They're gonna use their glue. They're gonna spread their glue on their paper. And then what they're gonna do is they're gonna place their letters in a row the way that they would spell the word. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, we let the kids put the letters however way, but it just gives them the sense of, and then voila, and they can spell the word spring. You can do this with a lot of different letters. I know later on we'll do some more cutting and spelling of words, but you can do it with their name. I know I did that activity where I cut their letters for their name. They can always glue that in their journal. You can spell lots of different words. We try to do this a lot with different themes that we're doing, so they can spell out different words, and just letter recognition and how to place letters in a row and things like that. So, well, I hope you enjoyed our journaling today, and I will see you on Monday. Have a happy Shabbat, and I will see you on Monday, and we're going to start talking about Passover. Bye, guys.